Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily News. I'm Nicholas Richardson. Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko is threatening Poland and the European Union with another wave of migrants. In an interview with Russian television, he said that he had no intention of stopping new arrivals from Africa and the Middle East from crossing the border because the West had stopped cooperating with Minsk and imposed sanctions. The self-proclaimed dictator of Belarus has rattled his sabre many times in the past. He seems to do so whenever he is either preparing to ask for another loan from the Kremlin or when he wants to please Moscow before a crisis in the Union state. This time he is using the Ukrainian attack on the Russian Kursk region to prove his loyalty to Putin. He is preparing an immigration crisis on the borders of Lithuania and Poland as a show of devotion. They imposed sanctions and stopped cooperating with us on the borders. Well, we said no thank you. There's no readmission agreement, we suspended it. They stopped building these centres for migrants. We told them we were not going to let migrants accumulate here, so the migrants went there in waves. And for them, for the European Union as a whole, this is a disaster. Where am I wrong? Lukashenko seems to be omitting a key detail. These migrants from the Middle East and Africa are not in Belarus by chance. They're not walking or swimming there. They're taking part in an organised operation. Operation Sluice. Tickets, organised flights from Baghdad, Damascus or Tripoli, visas in Moscow and Minsk, accommodation, and then transport to the Polish border. This has been going on continuously since the autumn of 2021. The narrative was that we have some sort of obligations regarding these migrants. It was part of a psychological operation by the Russian Federation. They were banking on that, to not only throw these people over our border, but to bind us with all these legal issues, formal humanitarian issues and so on. While the political scene in Poland now seems to be unified on the issue of the eastern border, this was not so obvious 3 years ago. Back then, politicians from the left-wing opposition organised protests at the border and insulted soldiers and border guards. Today, it is already clear that the United Right government was correct to speak of a hybrid war, both in terms of the methodical approach of the Minsk and Moscow regimes and the need to secure the border with a barrier. The current government's change of attitude is surprising. Well, it's good that it has changed, that we are, one might say, on the same side. But somehow, I find it hard to believe in the sincerity of it all. Migration pressure eased up a few months ago after President Andrzej Duda's visit to China. Poland has a bargaining chip that, if used, would send ripples through Beijing, the Silk Road. Chinese trains carrying billions of euros worth of goods to Europe must first pass through Polish territory. Poland is said to have threatened to close the crossings if Beijing did not bring Lukashenko into line. The fact that China has asked Lukashenko politely is true, as can be seen from this move, all the more so as the window of opportunity is closing. The smugglers say it's August, September, and then the window closes. By the same token, President Lukashenko's move is all the more puzzling as the Chinese Prime Minister is due to arrive in Belarus in the next few days. Our mutual political trust has been consolidated and cooperation on the Silk Road is yielding fruitful results. In this context, a signal from Poland warning once more against Lukashenko's threats would be very welcome. Kamil Czaska, TV Republika. Overnight downpours and complete paralysis of Warsaw. The S8 route underwater. Nightmare difficulties for drivers. Multi-kilometre traffic jams. This is the picture in the Polish capital.
Flooded streets and cars. Geyser in the streets. Flooded houses. This is the scene after the downpour that hit Warsaw last night. The mayor of the capital remains pleased with himself and his staff. This is only because our coordination has really passed the test. We believe that, as far as the city waterworks and sewage company is concerned, everything has been done to prevent such incidents. Unfortunately, torrential rains are known to cause such events. In other words, nobody is to blame. The problem is that heavy rain always paralyzes the capital, and no effective solution has been put forward in recent years. In my opinion, the Warsaw authorities have passed and are passing the test. I came here without any major problems. This Warsaw councillor from the Civic Coalition was lucky. Thousands of drivers were less fortunate. Among them were those traveling along a section of the S8, a route that regularly causes problems. This time, there will be no passing the buck. We have to work together. We all know that this road does not belong to the city. It's a fact. The S8 is managed by the General Directorate for National Roads and Motorways, but the role of local authorities, including Trzaskowski and his people, is to ensure that the route is passable, for example, by ensuring that sewage systems are unobstructed.
So,
President Rafał Trzaskowski seems to be doing very little in this regard. After a few, not particularly heavy rains, there is immediate flooding, clogged manholes. Does the municipal water and sewage company unclog these manholes? This institution falls under the president of Warsaw. Residents point out that water retention in the capital is not improved by the inept performance of the cleaning services under the civic platform mayor.
Trawa była koszona.
The grass has been cut but not harvested, blocking the flow of water. This canal is hardly maintained. This stench and squalor are synonymous with the civic platform government. And this is related to another issue, the encasing of our cities in concrete, the failure to take care of water flows, and failure to remove dry leaves. Łódź looks terrible in this respect. And the city council, the majority of whose members are civic platform members, has voted to allow property developers to encroach on allotments. Near the old town of Służewiec, the Służewiec brook overflowed its banks and flooded nearby houses. Residents estimated their losses at hundreds of thousands of zloty.
Można było zapobiec tej tragedii.
This tragedy could have been avoided, especially as the stream has overflowed more than once on Watermelon Street. It is simply a huge problem for us residents. Who is responsible this time?
To jest odpowiedzialność wód polskich.
This is the responsibility of Polish waters, and you know it well. It is indeed a question of what they have done in the last 6 years under the Law and Justice government. What does the town hall want to do? Build a new road that will make the disaster even worse when it rains heavily. For over a year, we have been protesting against the construction of this road, both from the Nowa Tu neighborhood and from the Watermelon Street estate. The matter has been brought to the attention of the administrative authorities and the President of Poland. But Rafał Trzaskowski assures that the deconcretization of Warsaw is underway, as trees are being planted. Whether or not a new street, Watermelon 2, will be built on this site, the zoning plan says so. Please direct your questions elsewhere. And the traditional evasion of questions shows the hypocrisy of the likely civic platform candidate for the presidency of Poland. The anger of the capital's residents is understandable. He should look after Warsaw and not just gleam on TV. This is happening thanks to our president Trzaskowski. And where are the city authorities? They probably don't have the money. That's always the best explanation. But Rafał Trzaskowski has money for a recreational area for 1 million zloty or for ideological projects. Security for residents? It seems to be a secondary issue for the mayor of Warsaw. After all, water has the quality of collecting and becoming a threat, and then flowing away. Adrian Borecki, TV Republika.
According to the German-funded Onet portal, the agreement signed by the Polish Minister of Defence at the end of the United Rights government regarding the production of artillery ammunition in Poland allegedly put control in private hands, although, in reality, the group that was created to produce the weapons is under state control. In the background is the enormous amount of money that Germany's largest armaments company receives for the production of artillery ammunition. As a result, all indications are that the expansion of ammunition production and capacity in Poland will be stopped, and the planned new Polish factory will remain on the drawing board.
According to Allnet, the United Right government has allegedly handed over control of about 14 billion zloty worth of artillery ammunition production for the military and, according to the German portal, to companies that allegedly have no experience in its production. After the publication of the German-funded portal, Donald Tusk wrote on the X platform, Mateusz, the fact that you can do business on respirators, masks, visas, or generators, everyone knew for a long time, but that on ammunition too, and to the tune of 14 billion zloty? We didn't have to wait long for Mateusz Morawiecki's response. Mr. Donald, if you were in power then, you would be waiting for the delivery of German helmets, not building a Polish ammunition factory. The issue is the government's National Ammunition Reserve program, adopted at the end of March last year, which was aimed at expanding Polish production of large-caliber ammunition for Crab and K9 cannon howitzers and replenishing its reserves. This was about diversification of possible supplies of large-caliber ammunition, 155mm ammunition, 120mm ammunition for the needs of the Polish army, for the needs of our allies, for the needs of fighting Ukraine as well. For the procurement of 155mm ammunition, the Ministry of Defense, headed by Mariusz Błaszczak, last December signed an executive contract worth 11 billion zloty with the Polish Armaments Group for 355,000 pieces of ammunition for heavy artillery. In addition, 2 billion zloty was to go towards investment related to its production in Poland, including a new artillery ammunition factory. Now, all indications are that Donald Tusk's government wants to withdraw from the program. This production capacity, which we intended to launch in Poland, has been stopped at the moment by purely political decisions. As you know, you can't fight a war without ammunition. As part of the National Ammunition Reserve, created by the Law and Justice government, a consortium called Polska Amunicja was to be established, in which the state-owned Industrial Development Agency was to hold 51%, with the remaining shares to be distributed to 3 private companies, including WBG, a company known for producing state-of-the-art battlefield management systems and drones, in which the state's treasury holds a 25% stake. The Polish state does not lose control. Having a majority stake of 51% allows it to control a strategic project. Secondly, those companies that are in this project are really the elite of Polish companies related to armaments. But according to the German portal, the deal allegedly puts control of the munitions company in private hands, and the private companies participating in the consortium, according to Onet, are disqualified by the fact that they have not yet produced munitions. Why lie so rudely and on top of that stupidly? It is clear from the unclassified part of the Council of Ministers resolution that the purpose of the program is to diversify and expand the ammunition production base. Perhaps there's more to the whole issue. In March, Brussels announced the results of a 513 million euros EU program to accelerate munitions production. Polish armaments companies received only about 2 million euros from it. German arms giant Rheinmetall, a private conglomerate, got the most. German armaments companies are growing very intensively. It's not only the German territory itself, it's also companies in the Baltics, Spain, Hungary, extensive production and European funds acquired. In June, Rheinmetall signed the largest framework agreement in its history with the German government for the supply of 155mm caliber artillery ammunition for up to 8.5 billion euros for the Bundeswehr and Germany's allies, including perhaps Poland, which is governed by the Tusk coalition. I don't want the Germans to buy us tanks. There is no such topic at all. We make our own purchases, and we will be more efficient in this than any country in Europe. Interestingly, during the visit of Chancellor Scholz, Donald Tusk did not talk about production, but only about purchases. Today, we can see perfectly well that this cooperation is to be based on the fact that the funds that were ultimately supposed to go to the Polish arms sector will be withheld and transferred to Rheinmetall, a German company. At the same time, the German Federal Office for the Support of the Bundeswehr has signed the first executive contract under this contract with Rheinmetall worth some 880 million euros. The contract is for the supply of artillery ammunition starting next year, with production to take place at an ammunition plant under construction in Unterlüß in Lower Saxony. Rheinmetall's ambition is, among other things, to become the largest producer of artillery ammunition in the world in the next few years, not just in Europe. The problem is that Poland, at whose borders there is a war provoked by Russia, should take care of adequate supplies of ammunition itself, because otherwise we will end up standing in long lines to the cellar. Radosław Jankiewicz, TV Republika.
A 4-day Democratic convention has begun in Chicago, during which Kamala Harris will be officially announced as the presidential candidate. The first day featured a speech by Joe Biden. He convinced voters that he had no regrets about being deleted by his own party and had to make way for Harris. Surprisingly, there was no talk about the most important issues for the Americans: the economy, security, or illegal immigration. Instead, abortion was discussed. Also during the speeches, a banner appeared directed towards the ruling Democrats. Stop rearming Israel. Just a month ago, it was Joe Biden who was supposed to be the Democratic candidate and the hero of the four-day convention, but rejected by his own party, and at times even ridiculed and forced to drop out of the race for the presidency. Today, this is how he explained the commotion about him.
Let me ask you, it's been the honor of my lifetime to serve as your president. I love the job, but I love my country more. I love my country more.
The truth is that Biden may feel betrayed, and by those closest to him.
Looking out at everyone tonight, I see the beauty of our great nation.
Here at the Democratic Convention, Kamala Harris can count on applause, but she is avoiding talking to her rival Donald Trump. She has already turned down a debate with the Republican candidate, which was scheduled to take place on the 4th of September on the conservative Fox News station, while Trump will come to the other debates on the left liberal media sympathetic to Harris. It's likely there that the Democratic candidate will hear, among other things, about the disastrous migration policies she's pursuing for America.
She allowed at least 20 million people to invade our country, and she wants to give them all citizenship and free government health care and let them raid Medicare and Social Security, which will, again, she will destroy Medicare, she will destroy Social Security.
Remarkably, the first day of the Democratic Convention was not about the issues that keep Americans awake at night, the faltering economy, unemployment, illegal immigration or security. Instead, there was no shortage of left-wing accents, including abortion policy.
A second Trump term would rip away even more of our rights. Passing a national abortion ban, letting states monitor pregnancies and prosecute.
The Democrats have bet on a far-left candidate, and there are consequences. In addition to her extreme ideology, Kamala Harris proposes an economy straight out of socialism, with price regulation at the forefront.
To był tylko początek takiego lewicowego sabatu.
It was only the beginning of such a leftist holiday, a very leftist holiday, with these very far-reaching proposals for abortion in all possible variations, regulation of real estate prices, and all sorts of social packages for immigrants. The alternate themes are meant to distract voters from the real problems facing Americans. But a four-day show may not be all the Democrats need. The race for the White House is evenly matched and America is divided. Marcin Shevchak, TV Republica. That's the news. Thank you for watching. And from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.